Welcome to This Toast is for You, a podcast celebrating the people who make our lives better. I'm your host, Kay Elizabeth, a licensed counselor, coach, and PhD, and I interview delightful people who support our health through financial stability, healthcare, education, the neighborhoods we live in, and the relationships we keep. So give a listen if you are in need of a dopamine hit, or if you like toast, because this toast is for you.
My name is Colette and I'm a member of the Minneapolis Hockey Association board, and I was interested in getting more involved. I've got 2 kids that are in hockey. I have 3 kids total. My oldest is our daughter, who does not play hockey. But she's very involved in sports. And our youngest are boys, so a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old. They play hockey. And I figured if they're going to be this involved in it, I am going to try and get involved and make a difference.
Amazing. What does it mean to be on the Minneapolis Hockey Association board?
It means you, first of all, if you're on the board, you can be of 2 types. You can be a voting member or just a regular board member. And I am a regular board member. And I stepped in and just indicated interest and said, I'll pretty much do whatever you kind of need. And they said, well, we've never had anyone in the recruitment and retention role. Would you want to try that out? And I said, sure. I don't know anything about recruiting hockey players or retaining them, but sign me up.
It sounds like a perfect position for you.
Perfect. I was perfect for it. It was in 2020. So right as we were kind of in the thick of COVID, and I had done some work with the Hockey Association, just volunteering. So when you've got kids in the program, you have to, every parent is mandated to give 12 hours of volunteer time. So to complete those hours during COVID, I helped track COVID cases upon entry to the hockey rink, which for the record is not a socially fun role to accept, but it needed to be done. So they asked and I said, sure. So I said I didn't want to do that anymore. I'd like to have a little more influence on the direction of the association.
Wait, were you like at the rink actively asking people if they had COVID? Was that what was happening?
Yeah, there was like a Google form that you had to, like a QR code that a family would have to scan from their phone and say that they're not expressing symptoms or experiencing symptoms. And then Minnesota and USA Hockey were tracking that. It was wild.
That is wild.
It was wild. And just knowing that I have kids that both really love hockey, I was like, I'm going to be involved in this for a long time. I love serving popcorn. I love doing concessions, but I'd like to kind of make my time a little bit more influential in hockey. So I said, sure, I'll try recruiting.
So what does that mean? How are you recruiting?
Just to go back a little bit, I joined because I hadn't played hockey my whole life. I loved watching it, but my experience was really kind of having worked in Canada for a long time, seeing tons of hockey, and I loved it, but I never watched girls hockey, and I never saw anyone other than a white guy playing hockey. So during 2020, there are a lot of themes in Minneapolis at the time. So I thought, how can I help make a difference? Well, here's one way I can maybe change a little bit of the face of hockey close to me and what my kids are exposed to. I made a little bit of a joke. I'm like, there's a lot of boys in hockey, mine included. Like, it sure be nice if like we could just recruit girls and they'd bring their brothers. And then people kind of looked at me and laughed. I'm like, no, like I'm kind of serious. Like there aren't as many girls in the association. And I can't remember numbers, but I think at the time we had like 750 kids in the association, and it hovers around that similar number still, but it was I would say less than 200 of those were girls. So as with many things, there was not equity there. And I said, well, here's an opportunity. So outside of just girls hockey, and this isn't a Minneapolis Association issue, it's kids of color involved in hockey the numbers are very low. I'm not an expert as to why that is, other than traditionally, culturally, there aren't a ton of Black hockey players in the NHL. There isn't a lot of people in positions of coaching or training or NHL layer level playing for kids to look up to and try to become. So I thought that was another area that I would really try and focus on. So I kind of went into it being I'm going to ask for a lot of money and try to change hockey.
How did that go?
Yeah, well, it goes, when some of the board meetings at the end, they're like, well, here's Colette again. She's going to ask for some more money. And I said, yes, I am. So I did. I wrote a lot of grants. I continued to write a lot of grants to get funding because I know that we don't have unlimited funds. And an important part to me was trying to get fundraising for families that couldn't afford registration. So when you join hockey, you pay to register your child and you also pay for their equipment for them to play.
What is the price of registration for hockey?
Good question. The price of registration for hockey varies based on the age. And at the highest level of participation, which is the older levels, it can be $1,800 for a year. And a majority of that cost is going towards ice rental. And that ice can be $200, $220, sometimes $240 an hour to rent a sheet of ice for one team. So I thought one way to recruit kids that traditionally haven't been involved in hockey is to make it accessible. That would be free registration and, hey, we've got some equipment that you can borrow. So once again, during COVID, we received a surplus of charitable gambling profits because even though many people were home during COVID, many people were gambling. And so our association benefits from charitable gambling partners. We have bars and those types of establishments that we are very thankful for that donate a portion of their proceeds from charitable gambling to our association. So we were having a very healthy year when I came in. So I asked for a lot of it, as in like $10,000 to purchase equipment so that we could have equipment for kids to learn how to play and then also to rent as the seasons go on. So that was kind of my big push, is to say I'm committed to getting a chunk of money and then recruiting enough kids to use it every year. I think we've spent upwards of $30,000 in the last year for financial assistance for both registration and equipment. I just hope that we can cover more financial assistance as we grow.
Hockey equipment is notoriously expensive.
Very much. And as you get older, or the positions you play, like goalie, I think my kid just said the other day, he's like, really glad I'm not a goalie because I feel bad having you buy skates. There's a difference there too if you're not just a player, if you're a goalie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. They just have a lot more body protection and they're really big. Their pads are large.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I asked for quite a bit of money and then people said, well, what are you going to do to bring the people in? So then I did a lot of research and went to some leadership conferences that are hosted by Minnesota Hockey, which again, didn't know any of this existed. And this conference is in the spring and they pull together like community associations from all over the state of Minnesota. And this is where you drink the Kool-Aid and you become a real hockey fan because you have moms coming from and dads coming from Warrow and Bemidji and Rochester, all over the state, talking about what they do to get kids involved in hockey. I loved that. And I came back with all these great ideas of what we were going to do. So over the summer, then we tried to implement that going into 2021. Before I was involved in the association, they had already had a system of doing yard signs that would advertise for us and that we give to everyone that signs their kid up. 350 families, so 350 signs. I worked with one of the dads and we came up with this idea of designing a puck-shaped sign. So it's round, looks like a hockey puck. And that was a winner. So we kind of ask every year, does anyone want to redesign the yard sign? And we take a vote with the association. Everyone's like, no, let's keep it the same. So we kind of hit on something that people like. And now year after year, there's more recognition. And then we also created a flyer that goes out to, I think, 8,300 kids across Minneapolis in schools, whether that be private or public schools. As part of that, on that flyer, you introduce 3 Try Hockey for Free sessions. I might have done just 2 that first year because I was very nervous, which basically are sanctioned by USA Hockey. And they say, just go ahead and invite a bunch of kids to your rink. And if you have equipment, give it to them and put them on the ice and see if they like it. And I thought, wow, I could plan that. I've planned a few kid birthday parties. I think I could do that. So we did. And we got some solid attendance, 30 kids. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of people that really want to do it. But the kids coming tended to be all from one area, and that was Southwest Minneapolis. Gendered tended to be more male than female, and very few kids of color attended those Try Hockey for Free sessions, even though those flyers went out to everyone in the Twin Cities. Like I talked earlier, there just weren't a lot of examples of kids that had come before them for them to really look up to and say, I want to be like my neighbor, Joe, who's playing hockey from Minneapolis. Like, sports instill a lot of values in kids in an easy way and a fun way and a healthy way for kids. So there's really, for me, when thinking about how I want to be involved in my kids' life and make it better, it's not just helping my kids, but the kids around them. So after the first year, I was like, oh, this is pretty fun. Like, it's really rewarding. You get to see cute little kids, ages 4 to 8, in like used hockey equipment that at that point I had to drive out to some guy that I got a recommendation of that kept extra gear in his garage. I looked like I was hauling like dead bodies and garbage bags back. There was a lot of heavy lifting of stuff to make these events happen. So I was like, there's a better way to do this next year. So that's when I started asking for some money for the equipment so that we could just house that with our association. And then the thought was then for kids that do decide to play, to reduce the equipment costs, we could then rent that equipment for $25 for the year, which we had done in the past. We just didn't always have the surplus of equipment to make it for everyone. So that really was a big change to use that money for equipment.
Where do you rent the equipment from?
Well, we bought the equipment and we got families that say our kid's 5 and he or she may or may not love hockey. And it's probably $800 to get a set of equipment. So we'd really like to rent for $25 for the season.
The acquisition of and storage of and renting of all the equipment, that has to be a huge undertaking.
It is. There's a lot of bins involved. A lot of Costco bins for storage.
I mean, how did you acquire it? So you've got 10 grand. That's where I'm hearing. You've got 10 grand.
So I have money and I call a store and I say, here's my deal. I'm with an association. I want to grow the game. What can you do for me? Give me $10,000 worth of equipment at a good price so that I can get the most kids on the ice. So if I look back, I think it's 15 or 20, between 15 and 20 sets of equipment, which a set of equipment includes your chest pad, a helmet, a set of gloves, a set of breezers, and a set of knee pads, shin pads, and a stick. So we have all of those things. We don't necessarily have enough skates for 20 kids. We have some where families will donate kind of like their used equipment, and we hopefully will have some left over after an equipment swap. But we pretty much have 15 to 20 sets of equipment that when you hold one of these Try Hockey for Free events and little kids try it on, it gets really wet and sweaty. You can't really wet and sweaty equipment away in Costco bins right away. So you then have to take all of that equipment home to your said garage in backyard and lay out 15 to 20 sets of equipment. Or you could take it to we have a dryland facility that we rent, and I just hang it up for it to dry. And then you put everything back into their numbered bins and you put it away for the next one. So I don't definitely do this alone. I've got maybe 15 adults, 15 parents that help out at every these events. So there's a lot of work behind the scenes to make it happen. But once those kids are interested in joining, and then we say, well, we have at the end of the season of doing these sessions, we've got 4 sets of equipment for you that we can rent out to you. Are you interested? And then we let them use that same set of equipment for the whole year. So then I don't have to store it as long either.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we just start all over again in the fall.
So as you're talking, I can't help but notice that it seems like you just kind of lay everything out like it was easy. But none of this sounds easy. None of it at all. And it seems like there's a pretty big jump between, hey, you interested in recruitment and retention, and asking for 10 grand and where you are now.
It was a big jump. Sports are so important to me and kids. I want to build up kids that are strong adults. From the early ages, kids are trained and taught to respect each other and to cheer for each other, which, I mean, really, if we as adults did that, the world would be a much better place. The next year I decided to say, all right, I can get people to come. There's interest in the community, but now I want to really target who I want to come. So this is when I started to say, I'm going to do 2 we call them try hockey for free sessions. And I said, we're going to do 2 to 1, and I'm going to offer 2 for girls only, and then I'm going to offer 1 for all youth. And we filled both sessions of girls. So I can take up to like 40 girls. And then to make it a little bit more girl heavy, we had like the high school girls hockey team come and actually do the on-ice drills. So the little girls who were getting on the ice for the first time were met with not a guy coach. It was high school girls that used to be like them, and they would then look up to and say, oh, I want to be like Katie. Or it was so much fun to watch, and it was so much less work for me to do versus having like our adult coaches are great. But we also have one amazing board member and coach, Myrnie, who is coincidentally a first grade teacher as well. So she's like a recruiting machine. She, along with the high school girls, would get on the ice and lead fun drills like Hungry Hungry Hippo. Like you hold the little girls' feet up, and then they have a bunch of rubber ducks in the middle of a circle, and you kind of wheel them around like wheelbarrows. The next session might be, the supports to get up on your skates and learning about some technique. And then the next station might be, let's see if you can hit the tennis ball into the net with a stick. It was really powerful to see girls leading little girls. And I was like, well, this is gold. So let's just keep doing this.
I can't help but connect that around the same time in 2023 was the first professional women's hockey league.
Yes.
The PWHL.
Yeah. And we were trying to use not only that, so the PWHL, and also the Minneapolis High School girls hockey team this past season just celebrated their 30th anniversary of being a girls hockey team.
Wow.
Fantastic, but also very telling of how new the sport is for girls.
Yeah.
So to highlight that, there was already a movement of the parent boosters for the high school girls trying to make a big deal about the 30th anniversary. So I joined them last spring. Then in January, we just had our first inaugural, we called it the Great Skate event. And it was, again, an event I learned about from someone that lived in New Prague at one of these Minnesota Hockey Leadership Conferences. And he did a short presentation on, we did this really fun thing in our community, which New Prague is a lot smaller and very different than ours. But I left there saying, oh my gosh, we could do this. And it was so simple and it was so fun. And I was like, we're 100% doing this. And it basically consisted of like shutting all the lights off in the rink, adding some music, a little disco ball action, some DJs, and having girls just come and get on the ice, like old school at a roller rink, just skating, having fun. And they made a video about it, and they had the high school girls helping and generating excitement. They had T-shirts and they had, pizza and little party, and then that was it. And then they reached out to those girls again next year and said, do you want to join hockey? And they said, this is a really great way to build community and to build interest in the sport between girls. So we said, let's do this. So I had a lot of involvement from the Minneapolis high school girls. The entire team and the captains showed up. We had all the boosters, and then I was just finalizing it yesterday, 65 girls ages 4 to 10 come on a Sunday afternoon on the last day of winter break, probably because parents are really tired of their own kids at that point, dropped them off and said, "Please go have fun at the rink."
Please wear yourself out.
Yes. We offered free skate rental. We said the event is free. I got a bunch of t-shirts made. We ordered pizzas, cookies, and the most important, I would say, the DJ and the disco ball and the lights. And you'd have like the rink, this music going on, and when it stopped, you'd have to freeze. And so we tried to do some of that, and then it rolled into some drills. And then we had all the high school girls signing autographs of their high school hockey team photos. And then they'd take photos with the little girls. And we had like picture frames with girls in it saying, girls hockey. Um, the high school team members were like signing the jerseys of the little girls. It was fantastic.
That sounds like the best thing I've ever heard. So not only are kids on skates absolutely the best, but now you've got music and a disco ball and like a rock star scenario going on. This is amazing.
Right? It was like a celebration to be a girl. Oh, and by the way, you're on skates and having a ton of fun. It was really more about showing girls what they could do. And here are 16, 17-year-old girls that have played hockey, and look at how strong they are, and look at how much fun they're having. And oh, my daughter now wants to play hockey and be just like you. And we were both kind of like teary, thinking, this is magic. Like, this is all it is. It's just representation, whether that's girls or whether that's kids of color. So I'm very hopeful that hockey will remain very popular in Minnesota because we are the state of hockey. But what that state of hockey, how it's comprised and who it's made up of, I do have hope that that will change as well. It's kind of funny when you ask me all these questions, it's really not about hockey. It's about, it happens to be hockey, but like all of these tenets are important to me just in our community. So it's been super rewarding. Like, I never thought in a million years I'd be this involved in hockey. Ever. I didn't think I'd have hockey players, and I certainly didn't think I would be like hiring a DJ and a disco ball for little girls to come in to do hockey on a Sunday afternoon. But like, you see how much fun these kids are having, and you see little girls saying, I want this high school girl to sign my jersey. You're like, I did that. That's awesome. At my son's games, when we have girls' games that are right after, you've got all these little girls banging on the glass for the boys' games. And then those boys are like, oh, it's my friend from my class. Like, can we stay and watch her game? It's seeing like the crossover of the teams and the support of each other that just is naturally happening because there's more numbers. And it's hearing stories from a friend of my son's who moved here from a different country and tried hockey for free one day and fell in love with it. And now she is a goalie and she's doing the 4 to 5 days of hockey. And their family is like, we absolutely love it. Before this, we were trying to think of things to do and fill our time. And now it's all filled for us. We have this new family within the hockey team. Our daughter loves the challenge. She's learning so much. And there's all these other girls that she can now help influence. And this little girl is 9 years old. So like, it's pretty fun to see what little kids can do. So I think those are the moments where I'm like, it's working. It's working.
If you think about someone who has impacted your life in a positive way, who would that be?
I get teary when I think about it. My high school cross-country ski coach, Mr. Lundeen, he took our group of, many of us had never skied before, and just made you believe that you could do it. And it was super hard to learn how to cross-country ski. I had no idea what I was doing. And there was never once where he was like, well, maybe this isn't for you. He just instilled the idea of, I'm here to teach you the technique and you're here to bring the work. And together, you're going to have a ton of fun. And the group of friends and the amount of fun that I had in those 4 years because of that, and what I learned to be just a hard worker and a good teammate really came from one person. And it was his constant efforts in just believing in you that I carry with me today as a mom. When you're having a tough day and you think of someone like that that's believed in you your whole life, you still think about him when you're over 50.
Wow.
It's pretty great.
Well, cheers to Mr. Lundeen.
Cheers to Mr. Lundeen for sure.
Colette, for seeing that there was room for improvement, for inserting yourself, for thinking creatively on others' behalf, for looking for who's not at the table, or in this case, at the rink, and inviting people to the rink, for setting up financial assistance for families to get their kids into hockey, for meeting up in somebody's house to get hockey equipment, for storing it in your garage, for recruiting volunteers to assist you in that process, and for recruiting and retaining the players themselves. But I think most of all, for recognizing that hockey is more than hockey, for recognizing that what you're doing is for a greater good. It's not just for kids to play hockey, it's for them to become better people.
Oh.
For that, this toast is for you. Cheers.
Oh, that is so nice. Thank you. Well, it's really nice that you see that or that anyone notices that, but it's so worth it. Like, it's so worth it.
Now it's your turn. Honor someone who has made your life better by recommending them as a guest, or by recording a toast to them at thistoastisforyou.com. To keep us going, please tap the follow button, use the star button to rate us, and share this episode with someone who could use some good news. Then celebrate by toasting up some bread, because this toast is for you.
Well, I'll sit here and talk about hockey all day with you. They all get down on one knee and listen to the coach, which I think is magic, and I've considered just having as part of my household.
A master's swimmers group? What is this?
Well, it's a lofty title, which means nothing other than for old people. Swimming is a great sport to be in. I'm not sure why I'm pushing hockey so much. Like, it's super fun to play ships across the ocean on skates.
What is ships across the ocean?
Like, all the kids start on one end of the rink and they try to get to the other without a coach tagging them. So it's kind of like freeze tag a little bit.
Oh.
What's the one where they shoot pew, pew, pew? I can't remember the name of it. And they'll shoot pucks at the players trying to go down the rink. And if you get hit by one of those pucks.
Oh, no.
I'm trying to think, like, Alien? What are those games back in the Atari games where you try to, like, get away from the spaceships?
Is it called Spaceship?
Yeah,
No.
or like Alien.
Maybe it is called Alien.
So
Invaders. Alien Invaders.
Alien Invaders. Exactly.
So I don't know what it takes to be a goalie, but I think there's something special about someone who's like, yes, I would very much like very hard pieces of rubber coming my direction towards my face.
It's a big fat no
Yeah.
thanks from me. If you see something that's not working the way you think it should be working, I think the best way to make a difference is to insert yourself. Whether it's with kids or whether it's with your neighbors, if something is not working the way you think it should be in your neighborhood, like maybe you want to have a really fun block party. Well, I would suggest maybe trying to host one or trying to just host a get together with neighbors and kind of put your foot in, test it out and see what you can do, because you might surprise yourself.